What's up? I've got a race breakdown today. This is RGT on the Paterberg. I wanted to do this one as a race breakdown rather than stream it live for a couple of reasons. One of which is I wanted to really do justice to this course because I feel like I've raced a lot of magic roads on RGT which don't have the scenery. I mean, those are created from a GPX file like I've talked about, and it kind of randomly generates. And the ones that I have shown that do have scenery are some of the older RGT courses that are not rendered with quite this level of detail. So I think this Paterberg course looks really good. So I wanted to record this one rather than stream it, just because sometimes the stream like kind of smashes down that video quality. So this is 4 laps of this Paterberg course. It's a pretty short course. It's going to be about a 30-minute race. We got Jasper there in the green, you can see going up the road. We got Alex, who is organizing the Thursday Crit Series, the one I streamed a couple of days ago where we raced on the Red Hook Milan course. That was Alex's race. So a few guys in here I recognize. And other reason I wanted to do this as a voiceover rather than a stream is to talk about some of the race mechanics here. I knew this would be a pretty dynamic and interesting course. You can see up here in the top right, there's the elevation profile. And this is one of the things I really like on RGT. It's got a pretty detailed and pretty accurate elevation profile. So we're starting on this sort of plateau, then we're going to go down. And there's basically 2 punchy climbs on this course, and there's also 4 corners at least. I mean, there's maybe more if you wanted to really get in there and count them. 4 major corners. So I know there's a lot of stuff in here that's going to break this race up. And I pretty much know I got to watch Jasper because he's listed on the side there as Jay Paraday. Or I might be saying his name wrong. Jasper, let me know. He subscribes to the channel. Let me know how to say it. Give me a pronunciation key. So I know I got to stick this front group on the flat and definitely on the down. I've talked about this before, but for me as a lighter rider on RGT especially, I got to be with the group when we hit a downhill or else I'm out the back. And that is true in real life. I'll get into it more a little bit later when it's really crucial, but basically right now, I just want to make sure I'm up here with this front group and not getting dropped. And I'm going to make sure that I hit it what feels like pretty hard for me when we hit the uphills. And I also want to take stock of like where all these corners are on this first lap. So this is a good one. Steep downhill into this right-hander, 90-degree right-hander. You can see I dropped my watts down all the way to like 130 there and then hit 13 for a second. It's not going to do me any good to pedal through that corner because as long as those numbers are red, it's braking a little bit. And it makes sense that you're going to go sharp downhill and then brake. And so I'm not chasing those 2 guys going up the road really hard because Jasper is still with me and I know he's kind of the motor in this group. So I feel like if he tried to jump across to them, I would go with him. But I think that was maybe just some guys who pedaled too hard through that corner and got back up to speed a little quicker. So I'm trying to take stock of like that corner wasn't really, really steep. So maybe by myself, I would have a good line. That does affect your cornering on RGT, like whether you're with people or not. Just like in real life, it's easier to get a clean line when you're by yourself. So that's another one coming into this first little climb that's it's not really that much of a corner. It's a corner and it'll slow you down if you're with a bunch of people, but it's not like going to break you down to a dead stop. But it does come right into this little uphill drag. So I decided to settle into something that's a little bit over threshold to see if I can break the group down a little bit. My threshold is right around 290-ish right now, I think. I haven't done a test in a minute, but this is just based on all of my numbers from races, my Zwift power and all that. I think it's about 290. So I tried to kind of settle into something in the 300 to 400 range here and just see what that does to the group. And as expected, it drew out Jasper, who I know is one of the strongest guys here. So basically, I don't want to let Jasper, you can see on the course profile on the right there, this one actually goes up and then straight back down. So it's crucial that as we hit the pointy part of this climb, I'm right on Jasper's wheel because, again, I got to be in the draft. So looking back, you can see we got a gap to everyone behind. that little move there kind of shredded the field, which I wasn't sure what it would do, but I just wanted to kind of test everybody. I think it definitely caught some people out a little bit. I know Alex is really strong. He had a really good ride on Thursday in the Red Hook race. And you can see he was kind of chasing there for a second, popped back up to third on the list. But I think everyone is a little bit tentative here because the Paterberg is coming up, that's the big famous cobbled climb on this course. It's in a lot of the races, Tour of Flanders sometimes. It's basically a really steep cobbled wall. It's not that long, but it's real steep, and it's cobbled so that eats more of your speed. And we're going to do it 4 times. So I think people were trying to maybe save it a little bit for that, knowing that it's coming up. And I just wanted to push the pace a little bit on that lead-in climb. I didn't even really know that it was there, but I saw it coming up on the course profile and figured I basically didn't want to get caught out. Like anything that was uphill, even a little bit uphill, I'm going to push a little over my threshold, especially knowing that there's a descent after. Probably going to be able to back off a little bit on the descent, even if someone else is pushing, as long as I'm on the pedals, on the pace. So we got that left turn. Now we're on the climb. And again, I'm just going to try to settle into a pace that feels hard, carry some of my speed. And I'm taking note of that, of how that corner sets up and how the speed feels and the gradient. So you can see it's like 11% here. It kicks up again at the top. So very importantly, like the most crucial section and the hardest section is right at the top there before it flattens out. And this is another one where being on the wheel right when you get off the climb is going to be very important. So Jasper's kind of letting me set pace. I'm really not trying to like totally break him here, but I'm also trying to keep the pace fast enough that I'm not getting attacked, basically. As long as you're setting the pace, I can do something that feels hard but manageable for me. You can see my ice sock there making me look like a hunchback. I've been doing the team like summer skin suit on the trainer with the ice sock in the back. And I don't know, it's about as good as the like no jersey base layer ice sock thing cooling wise. These skin suits do zip all the way down in the front, so that helps. And they are, you can't really tell here, but they are all like totally mesh. My team races primarily in the southeast of the U.S., which is very hot. So we all pretty much run the summer like full mesh stuff. So I don't know. It looks better on the video for sure, and I don't think it's affecting performance that negatively. So I'm going to keep trying to do that, I think. You could see Deca on the start line there. He had like some sort of dropout or problem. So he's actually just sitting on the start line, and he's watching the race unfold in front of him. He's in the chat from time to time and asks us to wave at him as we go through the start-finish, so that's funny. But yeah, the graphics. So I want to talk about the graphics here a little bit. Definitely got more of a realistic Flandrian feel here, Ardennes feel, than you might on Zwift, where Zwift tends to kind of cutesy everything up. I feel like the vibe of like the Ardennes region is sort of this more like drab, dreary, hard man's kind of feel. And I think RGT, especially with the way they've rendered like the clouds in the sky, is definitely capturing that. And I'll also say this is running it on a business laptop that does have a pretty decent CPU, pretty decent amount of RAM, but it doesn't have a dedicated graphics card. It's just the inbuilt Intel graphics card. Another video I'm working on right now is going to be a budget build that I'm really hoping, or the goal is to run Zwift in 1440 at 60 frames a second for under $500. It does have, that one will have a dedicated graphics card. So I want to see what that'll do on RGT. I want to see if that will ramp these graphics up a little bit. From the discussion I've seen, there hasn't been as much research done into like what it takes to run RGT at different levels and how it looks, how it behaves when you give it more to work with, more computer to work with. But I'm thinking, maybe I'll post some sort of side by side of like, here's how it looks on a graphics card and here's how it looks on an inbuilt native graphics card for like a business laptop. So we're coming back around to this downhill into the corner. I know I can probably back off a little right here. I go full coasting for a second there and then start pedaling again at the apex. The power in the top left is my 3-second power. I have it 3-second average, so it looks a little bit wonky when I do that. It looked like I was still pushing 300 when I was coasting there, but I did manage to get a few seconds coasting and just get right back onto the back of Jasper. So that's something I wanted to talk about too. I knew that no matter what, even if I was by myself, the way that this course was working, the way that this course sets up would be good for me, and it would give me something to focus on the whole time. It's a little bit more like a cyclocross course or a real-life crit course in the sense that there are a lot of spots where it's advantageous to pedal very hard, and then a lot of spots where you want to not pedal at all. And those spots where you want to not pedal at all are when you're coming into a corner, or when it's going to make you slow down already, or if you're on a downhill and you're with a group. And then the spots where you want to pedal really hard are like this, where we just came out of a corner, we're going up a hill. So any power I put down, any momentum I put down, it's not going to take that away from me for a long time, if that makes sense. This is the same reason, like in a cyclocross race, you see people coming out of a turn onto the start-finish straight. They generally stand up for a second and get up to speed, because that speed is going to carry you a farther distance. If you can get up to your maximum speed more quickly, then that's going to carry you a little bit farther. And I knew that this course would be pretty dynamic in that way, and in a way that a lot of e-racing is not, especially on Zwift, where you can just blast through all the corners, and the downhills, the corners, being on someone's wheel, all that stuff doesn't matter quite as much or in the same way. I am going to try to, so this time up, I'm not really pushing the pace. I'm just trying to exactly match what Jasper is doing, because we still got, this is lap 2 of 4. We got a long way to go, and I pretty much know that it's me and Jasper from here on out. But if he drops me this early on and I have to go solo, some of you who have watched me race before know this, but I'm not a great time trialist, and I'm also just like such a small guy that being alone in the wind doesn't do me a lot of good. I want to point this out. It switches between a visualization of your draft, how much draft you're getting, and then your power over the last few minutes, seconds, whatever. And when it's red, that's when you're braking. So ideally, you want those red parts to be on a low power section. But you can see right here, I'm barely pushing any watts, and I'm staying on Jasper's wheel, even maybe coming around him a little bit. On that downhill, I really got to make sure I'm right on the wheel. So this is where I wanted to talk about that a little bit more. I do think the drafting on RGT is much more realistic than the other e-cycling platforms I've tried. But one thing that's different, and this may just be for me or because of my body size and all that, one thing that's a little bit different or feels a little different to me from outside is that it's easier for me to get dropped on a downhill, especially when it's going really fast on RGT. I find in real life, I can be, 2 or 3 bike lengths off somebody on a downhill, but as long as I really get aero and stay lined up with them, it's like as you go faster, that person, the hole that they're punching in the air kind of drags out behind them a little bit farther. And that makes sense because each second they're traveling faster, but that air is not necessarily coming together more quickly, if that makes sense. Basically, like the rooster tail of their draft goes out longer. So the faster you're going, the farther back you can be sitting and get the same draft. So whereas on a flat, when we're going, 24, I might want to be right, just glued to the wheel. If we're on a downhill and we're going, 35 or 40, you can be 3 bike lengths, 4 bike lengths back even, and still be getting a pretty solid draft, for me at least. And I think some of that might also be the fact that, again, being like 61.2 kilos, thereabouts, you can see it on the screen right now. I'm not a big dude, so I'm not punching that big of a hole in the air. So most of the people who are going to be in front of me on a downhill are going to be those heavier riders, because they do go downhill faster, but also they're heavier because they're bigger. Because they're bigger, they punch a bigger hole in the air. So I can kind of get in that slipstream a little bit more easily, or I get more of a slipstream off of it. I think RGT, or really any of the virtual platforms, they're not taking that into account as much. Like how skinny, how tall, all that kind of stuff. So as the road starts to tip down, we start to go faster. That draft doesn't necessarily extend back quite as far. And that's part of why I'm taking the front here, is because as this flattens out, I want to make sure that if not in front, I'm right on Jasper's wheel, because if things start to tip back down and I'm not in his draft, that could get really dicey. And he does try a couple of times here. I don't know if he's actually trying to go or if he's just trying to get back up to speed, but it always feels like through the start-finish, things were surging. Yeah, he's up to 6.2 watts a kilo there. You saw him wave at Deca. Deca said in the chat, Deca is one of the other Belgian guys on here who's just like an absolute ripper. He said in the chat, you guys wave at me when you come through. And he was just sitting here watching the race. Like, his avatar was just sitting there, and he was watching the race go around. Pretty funny. I don't know what kind of error he had, but I think he had some kind of problem, like pairing his power meter or something. But it's funny that he just sat there to watch rather than peace out. So yeah, I really got to make sure that I'm right on the wheel, because I can't do that 2 or 3 bike length thing that I would do in the real world. That draft doesn't extend back quite so far, and especially being the smaller guy, if I'm in that draft, I'm fine going downhill, but once I get out of it, I'm getting a really big penalty as opposed to a heavier rider, and it's easy for me to get caught out and get left. There was a Westerly VR Wednesday race that I did where I got just absolutely destroyed, tailed off in the first 5K because I lost concentration for just a second. So like this right here, this is kind of alarm bells maybe a little bit. So I pedaled 300 coming into the corner there for a second just to make sure I was going to get back on. I am trying on all these corners to, even if I'm trying to get back up to someone or whatever, I surge a little before and then rest coming into it. And as my avatar apexes, that's when I start to click back through the gears, because you're virtual braking and then you need to accelerate up a little bit. And for me, being someone who, again, I always say I race a lot of cyclocross, crits, that kind of stuff, things that are very on the gas, off the gas efforts. Speaking of those, here comes a prime example. We're going to go down this steep little hill and then there's a right hand. So I start, Jasper's still pushing watts right here the whole way through. I freewheel down to 0 for a second, and then I kick back up once we're out, and I stayed right with him. That's the kind of thing that in a real life crit, you do see people doing that. You see people pedaling through, braking at the wrong times, or maybe they're not letting off, letting on, just not getting the flow exactly right. And you can go just as fast as they do for a lot less effort if you're doing it right. And that's one of the things I really like about RGT. And I'm really excited. I got to mention this too. I am super excited. We got USA Crits is doing some races on RGT. I would love to guest ride with a D1 team. So if any of you USA Crits D1 teams want a guest rider who knows RGT, races crits on RGT all the time, has won races on RGT, hit me up. They are doing community races, but I would love to jump in the D1 race. I've done some racing with the D1 boys in real life, and while those guys are on a whole different level, I can hang. I'm not like completely out the back in those scenarios, and I think especially on RGT where maybe I've got the mechanics down a little bit more, that'll be good. But yeah, so that example of going down the hill and then the sharp turn, that's actually good for me. Those quick little rests where obviously pedaling through that corner didn't really get Jasper anything. We came out at the same speed, but I got 2 seconds of freewheeling there. I've trained myself over the years, especially through cyclocross, to get recovered really quickly, get the maximum amount of rest out of those little 2-second breaks. So that kind of effort is solid for me. Right here, this is alarm bells. This doesn't look like much, but if this gap goes over the top, again, that 2-3 bike lengths, this is the hill that goes straight up and straight back down. So if Jasper tips over the top with those few bike lengths and he keeps putting down 6.87 watts a kilo like he is right now, he will be gone. He's a heavier rider than me. He's got better steady power than I do. So I know that I have to do what I got to do to get right back in the draft. And luckily I made it there. And you can see now that I'm in the draft, I'm doing almost nothing, and we're rolling pretty good, going pretty fast, and I'm not getting dropped. But that's just the strategy of this course. I think this is an awesome course. I would love to see more racing on this. I was really psyched that WKG put on this race. They do this Friday flyer, like a 30-minute short race every Friday. They call it Friday night flyer, but it's a Friday day flyer for me. This is like a kind of lunchtime here in the U.S. That is one thing. I wish we had more like USA PM racing on RGT. So Americans, let's get on it. Let's race on RGT at like 5 or 6 p.m. in America. Seems like a lot of the people on RGT are like UK based, EU based. So I'm kind of living on their time schedule. But I'm hoping USA Crit Series, that's going to get some people on here. I'm really interested to see how they do those courses too. Even if they're just the normal Magic Roads 1.0, it'll be really cool to race on some of the iconic courses on here. Speaking of which, that Thursday Crit Series, next week we're doing Crybaby Hill, Tulsa Tough course. Got a pretty smooth run at that corner there, and also a couple seconds off the gas before this next hard effort. So this is time number 3 of 4 up this climb. Again, I'm going to try to set a hard-ish pace. I'm a little bit more worried about Jasper attacking me here, so might be going a little too deep. You can see I kind of got up into almost 400 territory there for a second, and probably should have been staying more like 300 to 350 through here. And I keep kind of tipping over into like 350 to 400, which is a little bit less sustainable. But I was honestly pretty worried about Jasper really getting up a good head of steam on this part that's less steep, which it's funny to call 12% less steep. But I was kind of worried about him coming over the top with a lot of speed and then really powering over this 17, 18% part. Because he is a rider that has like, he can do 8 to 10 watts a kilo for a very short period, even if he's maybe a little bit heavier than me. I mean, I don't know exactly what he weighs, but I assume he's more than 61 kilos based on the kind of power he's putting out. And you can tell, I mean, I'm going real hard here over this top bit, and he's still getting a little bit of a gap on me. So this was my real mistake here, is I thought as I power on around this corner, I think that I'm safe, sort of. And it's a little deceptive. It doesn't really flatten out until here. And he's got that little 2 bike length gap, and it's starting to come back. He waves at Deca, and I think I'm safe, but very misleading there. He kind of let up for 1 second, let me get back in contact, and then he's just absolutely putting it down. Shake of the head from me. And yep, that could be the ball game. So now I gotta refocus, and basically from here I'm just going to try to ride this last lap like I would a cyclocross race when I'm by myself. I just need to maximize. I'm trying to not think so much about, oh, I got to get to Jasper, because the worst thing I could do here is put down a crazy effort and then blow myself coming into the climb that last time. So the finish, you can see, was right after that right-hander at the top of the steep climb. Worst thing I could do was put down a hard lap, blow up on the 17% at the last time up, and then get rolled by third and fourth place and lose the podium. Haven't had an RGT podium in a second here. Haven't had a race like this that was not going to come down to a sprint, and had some corners and some hills that sort of favored me. So what I'm going to do from here is just try to ride pretty efficiently. So I'm backing off the power here, going to get back on it. Basically, the plan for the rest of this lap is to be in sort of a sweet spot type power zone on the flats, over threshold on the climbs, and rest a little bit on the descents and the corners. Really give it a good go on that last time up the hill, because, I mean, who knows? Jasper is still doing 6.6 right now, so who knows? He might blow himself, and he could be the one that comes to a crawl on the climb. Not likely. He is like definitely one of the strongest guys on RGT for sure. Really consistent results, but still gotta play it the way that's gonna be best for me. That's probably gonna yield me the fastest overall lap time, or if not the fastest overall lap time, at least I will have something on that last climb where if I did get caught or I did catch Jasper, I can still kind of kick right where it counts. Getting back to the Thursday crit series though, so next week we're doing the Crybaby Hill course from Tulsa Tough. If you're not American, you might not know that one, but that one's a big deal in America. That's like a destination crit. It's basically a weird kind of shape. It's kind of a triangle. It's got a couple of real sharp corners, but the big feature is obviously Crybaby Hill. This is in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's got a bar on the hill that the bar really supports the race, and they've sort of made it into a thing where spectators come out and just go completely crazy during the race. They've got like baby doll heads on sticks, and they're like spraying beer everywhere, and it's basically like one of the biggest parties in American criterium racing, and it's also one of the hardest courses because it's got this short, sharp climb every lap, which is honestly a lot like this course. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be a better course for me than that Red Hook Milan course was. I streamed that one. Not sure if I'm going to stream it or try and do a race breakdown. I might actually stream it and record it, and then, you know, if I think I have some interesting like race breakdown-y stuff to say, just archive that stream and then do an in-depth breakdown. So that's another thing I want to talk about is I've been doing a lot of different stuff on the channel recently. I want to let everyone know for sure that race breakdowns are still going to be the main thing of the channel, kind of the backbone of the channel. I'm trying to stream more of my racing for a couple of reasons. One is just so they're not kind of lost to time. I was just sort of banking all these recordings that weren't really going out and seeing the light of day because I wasn't editing them, wasn't adding a track. It's basically like doing the race 2 or 3 times every time I do a commentary track. And some of them, you know, don't have these exact, these points where I really have something I need to say. It's sort of, I've already given better examples of some of this stuff. So I think what I want to do at this point is stream more of them so they're not just getting totally lost. And it seems like people are enjoying the streams. I also want to stream, especially when I got teammates, and I've been working to get the Discord audio sorted so you guys can kind of hear the tactics in the team chat, kind of like a team car style thing. I think I've got that sorted. I think I've got better music for my streams sorted. I've got a record label that is letting me use all of their artists for streams, and I don't have to worry about getting popped for copyright, and I also don't have to use the kind of like half-baked cell phone commercial music that most streams use, that like rights-free music that's like, I don't know, it's not terrible, but it's kind of whatever. It all sounds like that one M83 song like turned into a whole genre or something. It's just weird. Oh yeah, you can see I'm still on the fixie, which doesn't actually penalize you. All the gear in RGT is the same, but I am still on the fixie. At this point, I just cycled through a couple of different camera angles because I was basically just going to give it full gas up the Paterberg. There's not really much more for me to look at. So just flipping the camera angles just to see what it looks like. This one's called the drone camera. But yeah, I've been working on the stream quality. I definitely want to bring something different to that. Even when I am streaming by myself, I'm going to try to talk to the chat and to the camera a little bit more, talk through the strategy and what's going on, so you guys can get a feel for that. But my hope is I can bank a lot of that footage, the races I'm streaming, and then rather than doing necessarily full race breakdowns on each of them, I can sort of drill down once I have a lot of races. So maybe I can drill down on cornering, I can drill down on starts, I can drill down on sprints, I can like take one element out of multiple races that I did those streams for, and then edit that into one video where I really drill down on specific topics. But then there's also ones like this where I'm getting a little bit of lap traffic there, but there's also going to be races like this where I definitely have a full race worth of commentary to give. But yeah, these in-depth race breakdowns are definitely still going to be main thing of the channel. I've got a few more platforms I want to check out soon. Be Cool, CV Arcade, those are definitely up next. And those will definitely require some in-depth, deep dive stuff. And if we ever get to race outside again, I guess I could race outside again right now, but I don't feel great about racing outside right now. So I'm going to get creative with the outside videos as well. But yeah, I just want to bring a little bit of variety to the channel, but the theme is definitely analysis of all of it. It's going to be putting an analytical eye to all this stuff, and some tips and tricks, some stuff like that, but always with the goal of analyzing, making it faster and more optimized. So second place on the day. Check out some more race breakdowns over here. Subscribe to the channel so you can see when I'm going live, and hit me up in the chat.